Okay, section 2.4 gets a little more complicated, but we'll try to be as clear as we can. Once again, write down any questions you might have, things you don't understand, bring them to class with you. We'll be going over them in our class time together. We want to continue looking at definitional techniques, and so the first is extensional or denotative definitional techniques. So an extensional or denotative definition, straight out of the book, page 102, is one that assigns a meaning to a term by indicating the members of the class that the definiendum denotes. Okay, there's three ways to do this: demonstrative or ostensive, enumerative, or definition by subclass. So we'll look at these and then we'll go from the other point. The demonstrative or ostensive definitions, sorry about that, are points out what is being defined. So an example, a pair of glasses, as I point to my glasses. So what I'm doing is I'm saying this is a pair of glasses right here. This is what you see as a pair of glasses. A tilde is this, and then you see the little squiggly sign following it. You say, what's a tilde? Well, we'll find out about tildes in chapter 6, which we'll be using a lot of tildes in chapter 6. So, but it's demonstrating something. This points out what is being defined. So this is one of the things we do. I have a 28-month-old grandson who lives in my basement. Okay, and so we're learning. He's talking pretty well at this point, but we're always learning new things. And so the other day he walks into my office at my house, and he stands next to my desk, and he points at my laptop on the desk or on my computer hutch, and he says, "Papa, pewter, Papa, pewter." So he's learning because why? Somebody told him this is a computer. Well, he doesn't put the comma on yet, but he's got the pewter down pretty good. So you get the idea. So it's teaching a child to talk. The next one would be a enumerative definition, and this lists individual members of the class. So an example, a cat would be an animal like Garfield, Morris, Heathcliff. Okay, obviously we're looking at cartoon characters there. Or an athlete, we could say Alex Rodriguez, if you consider him to be an athlete. Some people aren't sure. Tom Brady, Venus Williams. You get the idea. These are people, Peyton Manning, we can put anybody in there we want to, people that we perceive to be in great athletic shape and good athletes within our culture. The third would be a definition by subclass. So this names subclasses of the class denoted by the term. So a cat, okay, which enumeratively would be the members of a class. This is going to go into subclasses of the class. So a cat would be an animal such as a Manx or a Siamese cat or a Persian cat or a tuxedo cat or whatever other kind of tabby cat, etc. Okay, an athlete. Instead of saying Peyton Manning, we would say someone who plays baseball, a runner, a hockey player, a soccer player, etc. So we're now defining it by subclass as opposed to the member of the class. And then you have intentional, and that's found on page 104. And in the book it says, intentional definition is one that assigns a meaning to a word by indicating the qualities or attributes that the word connotes. So if you go back to page 90 once again, in your textbook, it shows you the extension and the intension, the denotation and the connotation, right? And so this is one of those things you've got to just think through to help keep clear. So intensively, when we talk about indicating the qualities or attributes that the word contains, we're going to go more inward, right? And so as a result of that, we'll use synonyms, etymological definitions, operational, ingenious, and difference. So let's look at those. Synonymous definition. The definiens of a single word that contain the same attributes as the definiendum. So an example would be rich, would be wealthy. An example of canine would be a dog. Apothecary would be a pharmacist. Okay, somebody plays with drugs. This is something you would do from a thesaurus. That's one of the places we think about this type of thing. We think of a thesaurus. And so, that's where it's at. The etymological definition talks about where it comes from. It assigns meaning to a word by disclosing the word's ancestry in both its own language or other languages. So an example, philosophy comes from the Greek word philo or phileo, which means loves, and sophia, which means wisdom, giving it a literal definition from the Greek of being the love of wisdom or the pursuit of the love of wisdom. The word profane from the Latin word profanus, meaning outside the temple, something that's not sacred, irreverent, something blasphemous. Once again, we're going down to where does it come from and how does it apply, or what's its true definition at the basic level. An operational definition defines or assigns meaning to a word by specifying experimental procedures that determine whether or not the word applies to a certain thing. So, someone is classified a full-time student if and only if, at Front Range Community College, they are carrying 12 or more credits hours in a given semester. If you carry 11, you're not a full-time student. You're considered a part-time student. Okay, so we keep that in mind. A solution is basic, in science between acidic and pH. And a solution is basic if and only if the litmus paper turns blue when it's dipped into it. Okay, those are just some specifics that talk about operation. We define it by the operation, how it comes into play. The last one's a little bit more difficult. Definition by genus and difference defines a word, and there's some information on this on page 107, which kind of helps in a way to clarify. Okay, and then there's a chart on page 108 that will help you some with your homework assignment that's assigned for 2.4. But definition by genus and difference defines the word as a species of a given genus and describes how that species is different from other species within the genus. Okay, so the easiest way for us to do this would be an example. A genus is a general class, example cat. A species is a subclass within the genus, which would be a Manx. The difference is then what separates the species being defined from the species within the genus. What separates a Manx from a cat? Well, a Manx is a species, is defined as a cat, which is the genus, which is genetically without a tail, so that shows the difference. Okay, so the genus and difference. A Manx is a cat, but a Manx is a cat that doesn't have a tail. All the cats have tails. Okay, if we look at page 107 in your text, there's a great example, the larger group. A daughter is a species. Okay, the genus would be an offspring, a child. The difference is that she would be a male. She would be a female. Difference from a male. Okay, so it specifies a difference. What's the difference from being an offspring? Well, she's a specific offspring. She is a female offspring, not a male. I like the one for husband. Okay, a husband is a man, but the difference between a man and a husband is you can be a man without being a husband. I guess we could say in our culture today you can be a husband without being a man, but for terms of just general application, in this case, if you're a married man, you're considered a husband, right? And so we look at it. And so just another way of going through. Now, once again, looking at the chart, table 2.1 on page 108, this may prove to be a little bit more beneficial when you're doing your assignments in section 2.4 Roman numeral 1. I'll see you in class.